Parallel enable is similarly a performance optimization hint, which works based on the divide and conquer strategy. Oracle Database allows parallel execution of queries, which allows dividing the work of running the queries among several processes. And if these queries have function calls within them, then these functions will run in several processes, each having a copy working on a subset of rows handled by that process. Each function run will be as if running in a separate session, with package variables initialized and maintained for each session. But since the package variable changes in one session cannot be seen by other sessions, if these functions are allowed to read and modify them and use them for computations, that may lead to incorrect results. So functions which can be parallel enabled cannot read or modify package variables or database state. They have the restrictions which are applicable to functions run from SQL statements as well. As we talked about earlier, functions run in parallel DML cannot do any DML inside them. If these functions call other subprograms inside them, then these restrictions apply to them also. Here is an example of the same function which is parallel enabled by using the parallel enable keyword again after the return data type and before the as keyword. One thing to note is that a function without explicit declaration might still run in parallel if Oracle compiler can determine that it is safe and meets the restrictions. Oracle Database also allows to run Java programs and C functions from inside PL/SQL by creating PL/SQL wrappers for them. But these would not be considered safe to run in parallel unless we explicitly specify parallel enable to indicate to the compiler that it is safe to run so. But again, like specifying deterministic, we need to be careful specifying a function to be parallel enable, as if it is not truly parallel enabled and Oracle chooses to run it in parallel based on our declaration, it might lead to incorrect results. One way to make a query run in parallel is if the table it accesses has parallel specification in its definition. For instance, we can specify the parallel degree with an alter table as alter table employee parallel 3. One way to check the parallel degrees set for a table is by issuing the command as in this statement. You can also make a query run in parallel by specifying the parallel hint as in this statement, where we are asking to run the query in parallel with a degree of 4 on the employee table. That way, the function called in the query also runs in parallel. Once Oracle decides to execute a query in parallel, it decides the degree based on the definition of the tables involved in the query and chooses the highest value. And then it checks the statement for a parallel hint, and if found, it overwrites the parallel degree found earlier.